And the AC is down.
And we are live.
And we
Welcome.
are live. Yo, yo, yo. Hey, everybody. These are the two Davids from ProMaster. And this is a new thing, doing it at this time slot, 1 p.m. here in Hungary. And I want to give all of you a very warm welcome. If this is your first time with us, my name is David. I'm the CEO of ProMaster, and this young gentleman is also David, who is my partner in crime. I'm the nerd, and he teaches everybody else to be a nerd. Dave, what are we going to do today?
Well, we are going to have a really useful, that's the word I was looking
good,
for.
awesome, useful.
No, I wanted to say good, but like I leave that up to people to decide. But
Yeah.
we prepared a really useful workshop teaching
Okay.
people how to make the most of ChatGPT and their ChatGPT Plus subscription.
Okay, so before we get started, let's do the regular housekeeping stuff. We want to make sure that you guys can see us, hear us well, see if the lag is going on or not going on. So when you hear this, let us know in the comments if this is your first time with us or if you're a regular. Just not in the comments, in the chat. I was taught by our resident teacher here that there is a difference.
There is.
So
yeah, indeed.
let us know in the chat if this is your first time or if you are a regular.
Oh, a lot of first-timers.
A lot of
Matt,
first-timers.
Samer,
Awesome.
Ben, Sparks, Yvette, Helen, András, Zsolt, John.
John Kramer. Yeah, your last movie was really good, I heard.
I hope that is the John Kramer.
All right. We have one regular. Hey, Gerard. If you are regulars and you're already our students, feel free to let everybody know what they can expect and what's your experience so far with being and becoming a prom master. Now, Dave, are we ready to shoot up the slides?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. So, what will we learn today? We're going to learn a couple things about mastering ChatGPT in the next hour or so. We're going to stay for a bit for Q&A afterwards. But, so do I press this button
Yeah, this
there?
right,
Okay.
the right side arrow.
Boom.
Just like it was your computer, but it's just mine.
Okay. So what will we learn today? Now, first of all, we will learn how to think faster with ChatGPT in a way that will really get the most out of your ChatGPT Plus subscription. We're going to start with the scientific basics. There was a recent study, it was a joint research by Harvard, Wharton, and MIT academics that found out that any knowledge-based job can be done about 40% more effectively if you're using ChatGPT. That's really interesting because that shows us that ChatGPT is really just a general use tool for the human mind, basically. So let's dig into what this research actually did. First of all, there was a really significant quality improvement. If somebody was just using ChatGPT just randomly, just trial and error, what most people do, they would immediately still see a 38% jump in the quality of the output of their work within their field of work. Now, how can that happen? It's pretty simple. ChatGPT's use is pretty intuitive. Right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, just like with trial and error and typing stuff randomly, it will give you kind of like the response you want to. And you kind of get there already. They also saw people who got formal prompt engineering training, learned how to properly prompt ChatGPT. There was still an improvement by like about 5%, getting them to the quality of output to 42.5% increase versus the baseline, which is without ChatGPT, which is like a 5% difference. It's okay, but there is not a significant difference. However, there is also another variable here, and that is time. Researchers saw that the time required to complete a knowledge-based job decreased by 80%. People became 18% faster if they were just kind of randomly using ChatGPT. But the interesting thing is that when you actually learn how to properly prompt ChatGPT, you become twice as fast versus or it will accelerate your speed twice as much versus just randomly prompting, which means that if you learn how to prompt ChatGPT properly, you will complete any knowledge-based job, not just 40% better, but also 30% faster. Hence why we tell people that you're going to think faster. Because what basically happens is that if you do every task of yours 30% faster, that basically means that you can complete 8 hours worth of work in just 6 hours. Which kind of also answers the question, we will lose our jobs because of AI. And, saving 2 hours a day, it's not enough for anybody to lose their jobs over AI. But most people in knowledge-based white-collar jobs are already pretty much overwhelmed, right? It's very rare for people to do only 8 hours of work in a day. If you're a salaried employee, I think you know what I mean. Actually, just type in the chat, not in the comments, in the chat. Type in the chat. How difficult do you find to stick to 8-hour work days, or are you overwhelmed in your line of work? Let us know in the chat. Because the promise is that you can get all of those done in less than 6 hours if you properly know how to prompt ChatGPT. And when that's the case, just extrapolate that to an entire year. That's 500 hours, right? There are 250 work days in a year, so that's 500 hours. Net, that's 25 days. But if you divide the 500 hours in terms of work days, so divided by 8, that's 62.5 days. Yeah. That means that you can go on a holiday for 62 days and still get everything done if you use ChatGPT properly, if you get proper prompt engineering training, and versus people who do not get proper prompt engineering training.
So in the comments, Bill says not overwhelmed with 8 hours, but can do more using GPT. Spark says living the life of leisure already. Well, good for you. And then Ben says same as Bill. So what they say is that they can do more.
Yeah, you can do more.
So they are actually like proving the study.
Yes,
or
exactly.
Like they're experiencing the effects on their own.
The effects
skin.
on their own. Yeah. So we teach people how to think faster. And now the question is, there are these two random dudes, both called Davids, not very creative. Why should you listen to them? Prompt Master is a ChatGPT school. We teach people how to think faster in this ChatGPT school. We launched this March, and we have already over 6,000 people studying with us from 45 countries. We are about to hit 7,000 altogether. And in our Circle community, which we will talk about later, where we have the most active students, we have over 1,000 people of our most active and engaged students. We just hit that milestone today, like 2 hours ago. It's actually pretty amazing. So this lovely gentleman right next to me has an education background. He built 160,000 people community and educated a bunch of people on marketing and Instagram in the last couple of years. And he is pretty much a household name in Instagram marketing. And myself, I'm as I said, I'm the nerd. I have a technology background. I used to run a technology startup in machine learning in London a couple years back. But we're not alone. We also have a partner, an education partner called Neuron Solutions. All of our courses have been co-authored by experts who have over 2 decades of experience in machine learning, deep learning, and neural network. Leventa, who is one of the founders of Neuron Solutions, is also a docent at the Frankfurt Business School of Finance and Management. So we are pretty much covered by academics. We make sure and we put a lot of emphasis on making sure that all the teachings that we produce are sound. But also there's a lot of practice in the theory. Dave and myself, or ever since ChatGPT came out, we had over 5 million words worth of conversations with ChatGPT. That is the experience that we are going to try to convey throughout your ProMaster experience. That is basically more than the entire life's worth of work of Ernest Hemingway. I'm a big fan of Hemingway, but sorry, Ernest, I basically wrote more with ChatGPT in the last year than you did in your life.
What he published.
Obviously what you published. Well, I can publish my entire conversations. Like anyway, so basically, we are going to teach you how to work super fast and how to do awesome, crazy things with ChatGPT. That's our main goal, and because we believe that this is you, this is Mario, right? This is Mario, but then you have ChatGPT. And when you use as Mario, you use ChatGPT, you can do awesome things super fast. That is literally our business strategy and our value proposition. To do everything 40% better, 30% faster, so you become a fireball spitting Mario. All right, Dave, let's move on because I've been talking for 10 minutes and I think people are anxious to get to the point.
Well, this was
what are we going to learn today?
This was a great introduction. Thank you very much. Today, we have 3 main things on the agenda. First, we're going to talk about why you get bad responses from ChatGPT and how you can fix that. One of the fixes is to give long-term memory to ChatGPT with PDFs or other documents. And then we are going to show you 2 demos of how we did some awesome things super fast. Super fast. So, first thing is, why do you get bad responses from ChatGPT? And tell me in the chat if you have ever, or no, not ever, but like in the last week, you received a response from ChatGPT that you were like, man, this is not what I really asked for. This is not an accurate response to me, and this is not what I wanted. So you had to prompt again to get the right response. So if this happened to you in the last 7 days, let me know in the chat. I'm really curious about it. So there are 2 main reasons why we get these responses. Is first, our prompts are bad, so we don't phrase the task well enough to ChatGPT, and the other one is ChatGPT's inherent hallucination. So first, let's tackle the first issue, which is like bad prompts. How do we fix the bad prompts? What average users do is in the prompt, they just put in a task. So for example, just like write me a brownie recipe. Mm-hmm. And without giving more context, without explaining what you exactly want the model to do, you're not going to get a brownie recipe that you can actually cook at home. You might, but your chances of getting a wrong response are pretty high here. So what ChatGPT Pros do is that they know when to use all 6 elements of a prompt, or when they should only use 3 or 4. The first 2 elements are necessary. They must be provided in every prompt, which are the context and persona. This is like one element, and then the task or task description. You must always have these in the prompt. If you don't provide the context, it's going to use its default context, which is like
that's what I call the vanilla persona.
The vanilla ChatGPT, which is you are a helpful assistant. And then that's it. That's your context and that's your persona. And then your task is like write me a brownie recipe. Then you have these 2 elements. But then if you include more and more things like examples, restrictions and constraints, what is considered good, or the steps to achieve a goal, now suddenly you can get a lot more accurate responses. So for example, here's what a well-written prompt would look like. So act as an advertising copywriter who is witty, concise, and his primary objective is to make ads that people remember. Write a Facebook ad copy and describe the visual. The product to promote is, and then you put in the description of the product. And then you can insert examples of maybe previous successful high converting ads from yourself or maybe your competitors. You can put in restrictions to make it to create it platform specific. So if it's a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or a TikTok ad or a Google, like a click ad, then you must obey different restrictions and so on if it's relevant. So then you can get a lot better written response from ChatGPT.
Interestingly, the persona is pretty important, right? That's what you mentioned, and that's also what I found is that every time I need to add the persona, and because if I don't, then it will be just a generic kind of median GPT.
Yeah.
And most of the time when we talk about this, the people's comments that they make is that, custom instructions can make this, happen even faster. But then the challenge is that custom instructions, they eat up the whole chat, right? Is that what's being sent every time?
Well, from what I know, it's only sent in when you start the chat, like as the first prompt. And then it's not sent again to like shrink your context window, but it consumes the tokens.
It consumes tokens.
Yeah, but it's like you don't pay for the tokens when you use ChatGPT Plus.
Okay, so what about getting or falling out of the context window? Is that possible with custom instructions? What if I have like a super long custom instruction?
Well, the longest you can have is like 1,500 characters.
Well, it's
which is
3,000. You can
3,000.
you have like those two
parts.
Yeah,
2 parts.
Yeah.
So like 3,000 characters, that's not a lot. It's like a few hundred tokens.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry about it. One of the custom instructions that I did is, actually we talked about this in one of the workshops last week. I was frustrated with ChatGPT just not asking me follow-up questions to like if I wrote a prompt incorrectly or if it can be easily misunderstood. So I've written custom instructions and I asked it multiple times to like, help me refine it.
Yeah.
And now when I ask like a vague thing, it asks back like, hey, just to clarify, do you want to do this or this? And I say, the
just
first
ask
one.
clarification
Yeah.
questions.
And then when it gets the entire, like when it's sure about what to generate, then it just switches it off and then it just writes the entire response. So what I found is it's super helpful. I haven't really tested it in like really long conversations to see if it really shrinks the context. What I found, or what I know is that it only gets sent when you open a new chat. In the beginning, it gets sent, but not all the time.
So the other interesting thing about the personas and the custom instructions is that sometimes that's how I mostly use ChatGPT. Is I don't only use one persona within a single chat, but I actually use multiple personas. This is what we also teach to our advanced level students, what we call prompt sequences or macros, when you switch back and forth between multiple personas and make ChatGPT talk to itself. And that's when, custom instructions can kind of mess with that. So custom instructions need to be used very it needs to have a thought out strategy. But the persona is what goes into mostly to the custom instructions.
Well, this is also a persona. I called it the Socratic mode.
Yeah.
So just ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So we tackled one of the issues, which is this bad prompting skills, basically, or sometimes it's just laziness. Like I don't want to do these elements, and I just write a prompt, and then I know like, oh, I should have, but it's like I just try to save time. The second thing is you can give long-term memory to ChatGPT with PDFs, and this way you can stop hallucinations. And here's a definition that together with ChatGPT we created. Hallucination in large language models is the phenomenon where the model, due to gaps, ambiguities, or errors in its training data, generates information that is not accurate or verifiable, but presents them with unwarranted confidence.
Okay, so in plain English, that means?
That means that it's super, like you cannot tell the difference between it lying or not lying, because the confidence of the response is pretty much the same. Yeah. So you can only know if it's lying if you already know what you're asking for. Okay. Or if it's like really like it shows, but you need some practice to be able to tell.
So basically, it's not necessarily lying. It's just very confident in knowledge that is wrong, that is not true.
Well, it thinks it's true.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to tell like 5 main reasons why. So within the mind of ChatGPT, it thinks what it's saying is like true.
Okay, so if you ask me what was the thing that we discussed like yesterday, and I say we discussed coffee because I very vividly remember that we discussed coffee, but in fact we actually never had a conversation about coffee. We had a conversation about beer. Then I'm going to be hallucinating in a sense of LLMs, which means that this is important because in previous workshops, we asked or we got comments, people like, yeah, but ChatGPT is lying. But lying also implies intent.
Yeah, so there's this interesting phenomenon that people do. Whenever someone tells you a story, then you tell it to someone else, there are already gaps in your knowledge. Because you can't say it back verbatim, like a word to word. So there are gaps in your knowledge and you fill those in. You kind of tell the story again. And the more times you have to like recall the story and tell it, every time you just fill in the gaps.
Because you don't remember the story, you remember the memory of the story.
Yeah, and you have to make it make sense to you so that you can communicate it. And it's pretty much what it's doing as well. Like it has some kind of gaps in the data.
So it fills it up.
And it fills it up, yeah.
Okay.
So, and this is also true for memories. When you try to recall your own memories, but you don't really remember, it's frustrating when you don't remember. So to overcome that frustration, you just make something up and you tell yourself that this is true. And this is how I remember.
We all hallucinate now.
Yeah, a tiny bit.
It's a trip. Life is a trip. Okay, so why does hallucination happen, Dave?
So there are 5 main causes. The first one is data gaps, as we talked about. There's just especially in foreign languages, like not English languages, for example, in Hungarian, there's just not enough stuff that ChatGPT saw because it wasn't trained on that data. So it cannot generate any information about it. The second one is prompt ambiguity, which is basically if your prompts can be misunderstood and then it understands the prompt the wrong way. The other one is amplification of noise. There is always noise in any kind of training data. And sometimes that noise gets amplified by the model depending on its temperature. The higher the temperature, the more varied the responses are. The next one is model complexity. Like GPT 3.5 was trained on 175 billion parameters, right? And we don't know the GPT-4's number, but this means that this is called a large language model. This has a lot of parameters. And
there is a lot.
Yeah, a lot of zeros. And that just sometimes gives slight errors to also amplify this noise and just like the complexity of the system is just it cannot be 100% proof or error proof.
Okay.
And then there are generalization mechanisms. You probably noticed that whenever you ask ChatGPT a question, it says like, well, here's an overall summary. Here's, in general, this and this and this. So it always, whenever you ask it something, it always starts from the general steps, like general overview, and then it asks you like, do you want to go deeper into any of these? So these built-in generalization mechanisms can also lead to hallucination. So how you can overcome this, right? There are 3 main things that you can do. First is to feed information in the prompt.
So it's just like copy pasting.
Yeah, that's just copy pasting. And that works like 80% of the time. It's usually enough for a lot of use cases.
You just put the right information into the context window.
Yeah, like you would tell a person when you are delegating a job. Okay. Like, hey, can you please send out 5 emails for me about this and this and this to this and this and this person? And then it's like, yeah, okay, I can do it. And then they do it.
So they don't have to search for the email addresses. You just give it to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
The second one is, and it's one of our partners, the Keymate.ai, and you can use Keymate to really overcome hallucination. And I know most people here on this workshop came from Keymate. So yeah, big heads up and thank you to Keymate guys for this collaboration. We are really excited to teach everybody who wants to learn about ChatGPT. So the second way you can overcome hallucination is that you use the Keymate.ai Google search function, which allows you to search the internet for up-to-date information. That way you can basically fill in those data gaps that we talked about. And then the third version or third way to prevent this hallucination is if you provide ChatGPT with a personal knowledge base, which is basically I'm going to have a simplified explanation I'm going to explain it in a few minutes. But basically what you can do is once you have your internal information, like for example for your company, then you can upload those to the KeyMate personal knowledge base, and using the KeyMate plugin, you can ask it to query the knowledge base and give you information from your own data that is not available via Google search, because like your internal documents shouldn't be available via Google search or any kind of search.
Well, if it is, you got a problem bigger than ChatGPT.
Yeah. So then this way you can host a personal knowledge base. So let me give you a simplified explanation.
Before you do, I think it's a good time to kind of stop for just 1 second and say that if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We're going to have some separate time at the end to answer those as well. And as Dave said, big shout out to the KeyMate guys who are sponsoring this workshop. And also the third thing, if you're liking what you're hearing right now, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also click on that lovely little bell button so you don't miss any of our future videos or lives.
Are we going to tell them the gift that we have?
Should we tell them the gift? The gift. Should we tell? Okay, let's.
I'll leave it up to you. You are the CEO.
Okay, let's tell them the gift. Tell them the gift.
Well, what I wanted to just say is that we have a gift at the end.
Okay.
For them.
Okay, you got me there. I thought we're doing spoilers.
Well,
okay,
no
spoilers.
No spoilers. Okay. All I want to say is, stick around to the end because we have
the gift.
We have the gift. Well, that's low-key sus if you say it like that. So yeah, we have
a goodie bag.
Yeah, we have a gift for you. Okay. So simplified explanation of a knowledge base. What many people are familiar with are color palettes, and there's this very famous company called Pantone, and they have their yearly colors, trending colors, autumn colors, and so on. And you can use these colors for textile, you can use it for paper print, and you can use it for like painting your house for these colors. And this is really famous. So all these colors are basically encoded at, like every color in the word can be encoded to a combination of hue, saturation, or luminance. Or you can code it with an RGB. Or you can code it with a CMYK.
You can code it with code.
Yeah, so basically you can turn the colors to numbers. That's the important thing, because now numbers, computers can do stuff with. They cannot see the colors, but they can do stuff with numbers.
So you can have code red.
So what we can do is, let's say I like this slightly, I don't know, like blue, light blue color, and I want to have one of the...
It looks like the sea in like a tropical...
It does.
I probably need to go on a holiday, but
yeah,
that was the first association.
So, well, closer to a holiday, what I can show you, David, is which Pantone color is
that's even better.
Similar
Forget
to
the
that
holiday.
one.
Get me
so
the
you don't
Pantone
need to go on a holiday. You can just paint your bedroom to that color, and then you can always feel like you're by the sea. Do you want me to do that?
Can I use ChatGPT to paint my bedroom?
Well, virtually you can.
Virtual bedroom.
You can ask it to like generate the dolly picture of with this color. Huh?
Nice.
Okay, so what you would do if you had like a personal knowledge base of all the Pantone colors in a database, you would put in this color, like, hey, I like this color. Show me the most. Show me the best match that is closest to this one, and then it would spit out the response. Your match is Pantone 310. There you go.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I just eyeballed it.
For all the colorblind people, it is pretty close.
It is close. Yeah.
Believe us.
So what we did is basically we compared two colors without the computer seeing the color. And what we did is we converted the color to HSB, CMYK, RGB, or hex code, and then we calculated the distance to the same kind of coding format.
Yep.
And then we found the closest match, and that's what we retrieved from the database. So using this analogy, you can also compare two texts by converting them first to numbers, and that way computers can do calculations with them. So what you do is you convert the text to a vector, and then you calculate the distances within a vector database, and then you have your closest match.
So you basically have like a bag of numbers. You turn the text into a number, then you throw the number into the bag of numbers, and then you can find the closest match.
And then you can find the closest match.
Okay.
Yeah. So how you create a knowledge base is like you first have your raw data. This is, for example, a PDF text format, and like every sentence where is like a punctuation mark, that is one piece of data. And then you vectorize all of these sentences. And this is a complex mathematical process, and I don't want to get into deep details here. What happens is these sentences get stored based on their meaning, their sentiment, their length, and what kind of words are there. It's like a complex algorithm creates a thousand dimensional vector, and then you can store that in a vector database. So in such a database, this is a personal knowledge base, you have all of your sentences stored as vector formats. And then what happens on the other side is you start with a prompt like, hey, ChatGPT, tell me about something that's in my knowledge base. So what happens is first you also have to vectorize that the prompt itself, and then you find the closest neighbors to it. Like if you find the closest matches in this vector database, and then you can add that information back to the prompt, and then you can create the response with the model. So if you only use ChatGPT and you don't really use any other extensions or plugins, then you're only using the prompt and the model's response. So the only way you can manipulate information and put in information is within the prompt. And then the only thing you can do is to put in information that it fits its context window. You cannot put in more information. With a vector database like Pinecone, now you can have the vectorization process. So you can do this thing within Pinecone. People who are like nerds or interested in this technology part, you just go to Pinecone and they have like really good explanations on how it works, and you can try it out and stuff. The reason we really love Keymate is because it connects ChatGPT to such a knowledge base.
Yeah.
And it does the vectorization, finding the close neighbors, and adds gives you a proper response. So
basically you can just upload a PDF or a text file, and it just does the whole thing for you in the background, and then you can just ask questions about it, and it will return the right information, because instead of hallucinating, it finds the information in the source material, and it is smart to learn to find the source material. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
So now how do we use such a plugin? I know most people, or I don't know the exact percentage, but I know a big chunk of people here are already using plugins.
Yeah.
So quick tutorial for those who haven't used plugins before. How do you turn on and use GPT-4 with plugins? On the left-hand side of your ChatGPT on desktop, you will find your name. You have to click the 3 dots next to it, and then you go to settings and beta. And then in the beta features, you turn on the plugins. There's like a toggle that you can just turn on.
Okay.
Once you have that, whenever you select GPT-4, on the bottom, you will find the plugins beta. And if you click that, you can go to a plugin store where you can browse like thousands of plugins. Yeah. And once you installed some plugins, you can just select them with a checkbox.
Before you move forward, it's just so relevant and so timely.
Good question. It's
just, Helen, this is where you can find the plugin store. When you can see it on the screen. When you select plugins in GPT-4 and you select on the drop-down menu, at the bottom of the list, it will be plugin store. And that's where if you click on it, it brings up a model that has all the plugins in the ChatGPT store. That was it. It just literally just came, we just got this question. And it's just so relevant right now.
Okay. Yeah. So the plugin store, that's where you can like search, or there are like popular ones even. Keymate is now on the second page on the popular, so that's really good. So now what can you do with these plugins, right? So each plugin has its own command. So for example, Wolfram, which is, before ChatGPT, it was known for being a really good mathematical software where you could like sign up and then just do your calculations. But now as they have a plugin, any mathematical problem you put into ChatGPT, it's going to pull this plugin and it's going to do the advanced mathematics and then give you the response, give you charts and so on. Another plugin that we use frequently is WebPilot, which is its main use case is only if you have a specific URL. You put in that URL and it's going to get a big part of the information and whatever fits. I don't know the exact limit, but like whatever fits in the context window, it's going to get that from the URL. So you don't have to like copy paste it. And with Keymate.ai search, you can search the web, or you can so-called query your knowledge base. KB stands for knowledge base. And Keymate is a more advanced plugin. It doesn't only have one use case. You can use it for a lot of different things. So we prepared like a free Keymate like advanced commands cheat sheet, where I worked together with Osgur, one of the founders of Keymate, and what we did is we just summarized like how you can use this plugin.
Okay.
Right.
So is this the gift?
No, this is just
the gift.
This is just a tiny part of the gift.
Okay, not just a tiny part.
So at the end, we'll provide you with the link where you can just download this thing and get more more stuff.
Okay. So this is not the gift, but this is
not
a
the
gift.
No,
it is a gift. Okay.
Okay. So
this is pretty cool.
So now, as we basically covered the first two parts of the workshop, now we have time to do some demos. So I'm gonna switch the camera now while I set things up. So David, please go ahead and answer a couple of questions from the chat.
So let's see. So how does it how exactly does it use the knowledge base? Victor, do you think that the question was satisfactory for you? Just let me know in the chat. Let's see. Helen. Yeah, it was the Helen's question about the plugin store. Is it possible to have GPT write or extend larger scripts when building an app or so? Sometimes it tells me it can't output the script because the script is too long. Well, Swalker Jr., the question is how long it is. But usually what I do is if I have like a really long piece of code that I want to work on and continue, I actually just upload the file to advanced data analysis, and then I start querying ChatGPT and ask it to write different parts of it. Also because I can also ask ChatGPT to kind of merge the old code with the newly written code and return the actual file for me. Okay, now, so I still think it queries just the parts from the KB, not really knows it. Yeah, so here's the thing. The way vector databases work, you can ask for specific questions and it searches within the knowledge base, and it understands the context of what it retrieves. The process is called retrieval augmentation generation, RAG. So it doesn't have like a general understanding of everything that you upload. You need to be able to properly engineer your prompts to retrieve the right information from the knowledge base. But you can use that as an extension to the context window because it can retrieve the right kind of information on demand at your fingertips really easily. Now, uploading an Excel file and creating a knowledge base out of it, to the best of my knowledge, is currently not possible. But what is possible, if you use advanced data analysis, you can actually upload CSV or Excel files to the data analysis, because then it uses a firewall isolated Python sandbox environment where it can just process what's in the spreadsheet, and then it can write code to manipulate that. And that's how I usually work with spreadsheets within ADA, Advanced Data Analysis. Dave, are we ready to move forward?
Yes, we are ready. So now, David, you brought two chats?
I brought two chats,
okay,
yes.
So give me 1 second to switch the streaming to, again, have the website and the camera. Do you need this right side, or should I reduce our size?
You can reduce our size.
Okay.
I'm not concerned with size.
Okay. Let me move us out of the place. So a little bit more.
Okay, awesome. So here is a use case of what we can do with Keymate, and this is a pretty advanced use case. What you will see is also called a prompt sequence, or a do macro, as we teach it to our advanced students. But this is basically a a pretty good real life use case on what you can do with Keymate. We're going to use Keymate search plugin as a market research assistant. So what we start with is the prompt. As Dave already explained to us, we give it the context and we give the task. So I act as a research assistant who helps me out. Context, I'm a market researcher and you're helping me determine the total annual revenue of the cupcake industry. Your first task is to give me a methodology in which you can estimate this figure and highlight what information would you need to search for to get the number. Don't do any searches yet, just explain. Now, as you can see, we gave constraints, we gave the task, we gave context, we gave the persona. Interestingly, what we're going to do is we're going to step by step. We now just laid the foundations for the task and then we're going to start asking specific questions. So firstly, the first task is give us the methodology. We are going to do something that's called a guesstimation, which is very important when you have incomplete information about a subject, but you still need to make an estimation. This is something that large tech companies like to do at job interviews when they ask like, how many newborn babies are there in a year in Germany? And then you don't have access to anything and you need to kind of showcase your thinking. It's like, okay, so it has this kind of population, and you just walk through the logical process. I asked ChatGPT to do the same. So it gave me the process of what it would do step by step, and then also highlight as per my prompt the information that it will need to search for. So obviously my next thing is, okay, so I answer your first questions, which is like, okay, so is it global or regional or what type of cupcakes or whatever? So I said global, gourmet cupcakes, retail, both online and offline. Now search for the number of outlets. If you have incomplete data, make an educated guess, but give me sources. I wanted that because the number of outlets is the first one in the information needed list. And it did a search. Oh yeah, it's a shared link, so the output of the plugin was redacted. So what happens here is it found a bunch of locations for specific cupcake stores, and then it gave me an estimate. It was an initial estimate of like 1,000 gourmet cupcake stores worldwide. It's not every cupcake store, it's just the gourmet cupcake store.
Oh, so it went with 100 major cities globally
Yeah.
and assumed an average of 10 gourmet cupcake stores per
which
city.
is kind of true. I think in Budapest we have like 1 or 2
Yeah.
gourmet cupcake stores. Okay, now let's do the same thought process to find the second thing, which is average revenue. Now it also did a research, provided me with the sources. As you can see, probably, I'm not sure if you can see it at the end of the screen. No, you cannot. Yes, you can. It's the 85cbakerycafe.com. It actually went to the website of the cafe. So it gave me some revenue figures as well. And it also made an educated guess as per the request. I'm like, you know what? Let's do a sanity check on this estimation. Like, criticize your own response. And it did an estimation. It did some more searching, gave me the sources, and did a sanity check. And then it came to the conclusion that it will be somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 per cupcake outlets. Now do this. List the major players in the cupcake industry, their estimated market share. It encounters some errors, trying to access links that were not accessible without authorization, but ultimately it did give us the right numbers and the information. So I moved forward, find any industry reports. It found me the industry reports, again, gave me the sources as well. Cake market size, cupcake box market size, global cupcake mixes market. Pretty interesting. Never would have thought in my life I would have such an inherent deep knowledge and understanding of the cupcake industry. Now I'm like, okay, now do this. Growth rate, historical growth rate of the cupcake industry. Boom. Now I get the same things. Okay, I get a couple of interesting figures. Now, okay, so what I want you to do now, dear ChatGPT, and Keymate, what you did is got me a bunch of information. Now summarize the conversation so far. Explain to me step by step what you did, what educated guesses did you infer from them. The goal is to explain how this industry works. And it could do it because through the Keymate plugin, it actually summarized the whole, it was actually saving the steps in the personal knowledge base. So nothing falls out of the context window. It can go back and query the database. So now it went into, okay, this was the objective. I then figured out the methodology. Then we started looking for number of outlets. And what you can see is actually it changed its own estimation from 1,000 to 2,400, because once it got to the major players and their market share, it actually updated its estimation to 2,400 stores globally. Then it looked at the average revenue, again merged all the data points and found out that the lowest revenue point was about 92,000, the largest was about 200,000. Did a sanity check, found the major players, industry reports they found, and the history, and also it got a growth rate. And it gave me a summary of all this. Now, here is what happens. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good, but this is just a bunch of raw data. It's pretty cool, but I want to go deeper. So I did this, and it won't show, but if I send the pictures over to you, will you be able to share them? Because I think it's pretty cool, actually. So what I did, I opened advanced data analysis, right? I opened advanced data analysis, and I just literally copy pasted everything in here. I used ChatGPT to get this. Yeah, here's the summary. Bang. Okay, I'm like, based on this, please plot the growth rate and the total annual revenue of this industry, highlighting the market share of the largest players versus everyone else. And then it started calculating everything. Used advanced data analysis to write the code itself, right? To write the code, do the calculation so it wouldn't hallucinate, because it used the Python sandbox to do any computations, and then started inferring the total market size based on all the data it had, the growth rate, the market share, the estimated number of stores, the estimated revenue. It was actually a pretty detailed thing, and then it plotted the total annual revenue. But I'm like, you know what? This is not enough. What I want you is actually to look at, like, you have the current size and you also have growth rates. So assume that the growth rates were pretty similar. I want to see the trajectory. What does this industry look like from 2010 until 2030 based on the information that we currently have? And I'm just going to share you a couple of screens.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm just gonna send it to you on Slack.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is the last. So this was the last image that it shared. It also plotted the market share, lower and upper estimate between the largest ones and everyone else. But I think the interesting part was how it plotted the growth of the entire industry. And as you can see, it gave me a pretty good working understanding of...
They can't see it yet.
Okay.
Hold on. I need a few seconds to save it. There is a question in the chat of does like in the knowledge base, does it refresh when there is new information? And Ben also asked, like, what plugin would you recommend for multimodality? I explained them the 3 different plugins that we recommend to use. So yeah, please take some time to answer those.
Okay, so first of all, GPT only stores thing in its context window. When you use Keymate, it also stores the conversation in your knowledge base, so you can get back to it throughout different conversations. Which is what I usually refer to as Keymate. ChatGPT, if you use Keymate, keeps getting smarter and smarter as you keep using it. Now, what would I recommend for multimodality? That would also mean I would need to know the actual use cases. So the way I use this is that we're using Keymate and Wolfram, because Wolfram can do numbers and it can also do plotting. Keymate can do searches, can do knowledge bases, and then we have a third slot for generating voice, generating text, generating images, etc., etc. So that is something that I basically change case by case, and if I need to find a new tool that is outside the scope of ChatGPT, I can just use some of the aggregator sites. analyzing app creation projects, Python codes. I don't actually use plugins for that. I use the advanced data analysis. It's a lot better. Now, I think we have the images, right?
Yeah, so, they can see it all.
Okay, so we have more than two. I think I plotted a couple, but these are two interesting ones. So what I did is ChatGPT with Keymate estimated the total market share of the largest players, Georgetown and Magnolia and Sprinkles. And then I wanted to understand the total annual revenue, the market dynamics. Like there was a lower estimate and an upper estimate for Cupcake. So as you can see,